Good afternoon and welcome to Ability Matters. My name is Sean. I've got a very interesting young man for an interview today. He's born in Wollongong, but then he moved up to Newcastle. We'll find out a little bit about that and a little bit more very soon. I'd like to welcome to the microphone Nathan Bell. Welcome, Nathan.
Hello, thanks for having me.
That's all right, mate. Thanks for coming on. Yes, so you're born in Wollongong. Can you remember where in Wollongong? Did you live here long before you moved up to Newcastle?
No, I've never really asked Mum where specifically in Wollongong we lived. I was born in the hospital there, but because we moved away because there wasn't a healthy relationship with my father.
Okay.
So that's why we moved away from the area, and we got away within a year of me being born. But I've always loved the city. I've come down a few times in my life, and I like the area a lot. It's a lot like Newcastle.
Very much so.
And I like living in Newcastle.
Although we've still got a bit of steelworks hanging around the area. I think in Newcastle they're largely gone, haven't they?
Yeah, they're all gone now, but I'm 38, so I can still remember back to just when they'd shut down and what the city was like back then. And I still see the similarities between when I was very young and the times I've been to Wollongong.
Oh, fantastic. So tell me a little bit about yourself, mate. What do you do? What's a week in the life of Nathan?
I've got a pretty chock-a-block schedule with reliability because I do a bunch of creative arts activities with them.
Just to jump in, who's Reliability?
Reliability is an NDIS-funded creative arts service who I work with. I have NDIS funding because I had a psychotic episode and I have schizophrenia. So I was given NDIS funding and paired with Reliability, and they support people with mental illness and disability to pursue their creative goals. So my week is chock-a-block with all these activities I do at Reliability's Creative Arts Centre in Newcastle. I do creative writing, I do animation, I do graphic design, I do video media, I did a podcast series. What else do I do with Reliability? I do music production, and on Fridays I work for Reliability as well. So they've offered me some employment as well. So I've got a very jam-packed week. I'm a very busy creator. I'm always producing content and art. I produce a variety of content and art.
So those things, like there's music, is it drawing or like digital animation? What kind of...
Animating on the computer, using a graphics tablet. And using Photoshop and Adobe Animate.
And is all that sort of creative stuff, or you do that for like work or for organisations? Or I guess you'd probably do some for Reliability.
No, I don't get paid to do that. It's all my personal projects. Okay. I'm an aspiring creator. I want to get into a number of fields. My focus is on my writing, but also I'm producing a children's animation, which I plan to enter into a number of competitions. And I'm also producing a number of songs and music, which I intend on promoting and getting out there. I've had some songs played on community radio a few times now, so I'm getting my music out there. So I'm trying to establish a creative business.
Fantastic. So what's your main focus, or is it, you spread it evenly amongst all of them?
No, the main focus is the writing, but the writing is a tool to get into the film industry. See, I write all my stories based in Australia, and my goal is to see them turned into films filmed here, and that's going to be my stepping stone, I hope, into getting into professional cinema work. So the way I see it, I can write the story and somebody else can make the movie, and I can just help out. Okay,
so like behind the camera work. Not interested in being an actor, but the story and the behind the scenes kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's right. I'd be more the script writer.
Okay, cool. And we'll talk about that a little bit later because I know you've got some fantastic books and things out. But just getting back to Reliability, what kind of setup have they got there? Have they got like a studio, in a performance space? What's Reliability kind of the physical offices like?
The space we're in is an old grocery store from like the 80s. The building has housed a number of businesses over the years, but it's currently set up for us as an art production studio. So down the front, we've got drum kits and musical instruments and sound equipment and microphones and a computer to run it all off. Then in the middle section, we've got 2 computers with graphics tablets that we can do digital media work on, film editing, animation and Adobe Photoshop and all those things. Then up the back, we've got another music area with a drum kit and some instruments and some microphones and another computer to record and to run all that stuff, and we've got all the software necessary and the software licenses. So that's how the space is set up. So it's a very busy creative hub. We've got about 40 clients who come in here
Wow.
across the course of the week at different times and access the studio and work on a number of projects. So we're a very busy little place.
And where is it? What part of Newcastle?
We're in Tyers Hill, Newcastle, which is the next suburb up from Islington. And we're looking at options for expanding over the next few years. We can't say anything for certain, but we'd like to grow the business a bit more.
Okay. And Tyers Hill, I'm not familiar. Is that sort of central Newcastle, northern, southern, western?
No, it's a bit further out from the centre of the city. So it's probably about 15 minutes drive out from the city, past Hamilton. So
Okay.
it's outer suburbs.
Okay, that's sort of south, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. And like, there's obviously, it sounds like there's great facilities there for bands and singers and stuff to record. Is there like a performance space for the plays to be put on or anything like that? Like
No,
lighting?
we don't have that
Okay.
sort of space in the building. We wouldn't be able to host a performance here, but we are looking at ways. We're trying to network with venues so that because we have a client staff band who rehearse on Saturdays between 9 and 2. I'm a part of the client staff band, and we do a mixture of covers and originals. Lately, I've been doing some Black Sabbath covers. And we're looking at trying to network to get more venues to have us come in and play, because there's definitely not space in the studio to put on any sort of show or performance.
Yeah, of course, Ozzy Osbourne passed away not long ago, so that's a bit of a
That's
relevant...
right.
Yeah. Black Sabbath stuff. It's had a bit of a resurgence lately too. I do see that one of your colleagues is a guitarist from Rose Tattoo, David Pritchard.
Oh, you know Di Pritchard, do you?
I know of him. I know of Rose Tattoo
Yes,
as well.
Di works here. Yes, Di's been working here for, I think, about 2 years now.
Fantastic.
And he works with a number of clients who he mentors with guitar work and producing music. We're really glad to have Di on the team.
And I'm sure he's got some great stories of touring and back in the day.
Oh, he's got some cracker stories. I've heard a few of them. They're great.
Fantastic. I don't know if you know, but Angry Anderson, the lead singer, was a politician down here for a little while. Used
Oh,
to
yes, I
see him-
didn't realise.
Yeah, you used to see him at a couple of little events. He was all very nicely dressed and wearing a suit, but yeah, I could tell he had a few stories to tell as well. Obviously, the boys had a lot of fun when Rose Tattoo was going around.
Yes.
Fantastic. You've got a role, like a professional role. You're the marketing manager for Reliability.
That's right. Well, basically what happened was I started seeking my own publicity, because obviously I want to go very far in the creative industry. So I started seeking publicity and emailing radio stations and emailing newspapers, because I wanted to get my own opportunities to get my art out there into the country. And then the owner, Michael, just saw what I was doing and said, well, you can get paid to do this on Fridays. And since then I've been doing it on Fridays, and I've been getting paid to do it. And we organise radio interviews for our clients, which gets our clients the opportunity to get their music heard and to talk about their art and their progress and what they're doing, because it's so hard to break into the music industry. So we're trying to open up doors for our clients. We're trying to get their music on the air and get them interviews so they can actually achieve success in this industry.
Fantastic. And so there's a great little thing of, some parents go, oh, don't waste your time playing the guitar or the drums or whatever, but you've turned that and you kind of drive to get your name out there into a professionally paid gig, mate. That's fantastic.
Yes, thank you.
Fantastic. And that's how I came across you. You sent an email to VOX FM here, and I had a look at it.
That's
and did
right.
the research and thought, this guy's interesting. I've got to talk to him. One of the things you talked about before is being an author. Tell me a little bit about your authoring. I see you've written a few books.
Yeah, well, I tried to write a couple of books in my 20s when I was younger, and I didn't really get very far. I didn't have the discipline at the time or the skills. And then many years later, after I was in the psychiatric ward, I started with Reliability, and I immediately told the owner, Michael, that I wanted to focus on writing and trying to write my first novel. So Michael already had a man named Robert Burley working for him, who had been an English teacher his whole life. So I was paired with Robert, and Robert mentored me through writing my first novel, Kings of the New Age, The Quest of the Balancing Stones. And then I was also mentored by a woman named Brooke Forbes, who supported me with that book and edited that book. Then I self-published that book. And since then I've sold over 1,000 copies of that book. And now I've written and self-published 4 short stories, which are very popular around Newcastle. And I've sold a further maybe 1,000 units of those stories.
What's that book called?
My first novel is called Kings of the New Age, The Quest of the Balancing Stones.
Yeah, and the other one about the Newcastle stories?
I've got 4 short stories based in Newcastle, and they are called The Wizard and the Eye Man, Saturday Night on Beaumont Street, 1 Minute to Midnight, and Shamanic Journey.
Okay. There's a bit of a theme there. I did a bit of research too. You seem to be very interested in post-apocalyptic, end of the earth, end of times kind of novels. How come you're interested in those sorts of areas?
Well, on one part, I'm a very mystical man. I'm really into mystical ideas and magical thinking. And when I become very unwell with my schizophrenia, I start to think that I have this grand destiny to survive a nuclear war and lead humanity into the future. That's one of my delusions that I develop whenever I become unwell. But also, the other side of it is my mother raised me to be very politically aware, and she raised me around an understanding of the Cold War and communism and capitalism and what was going on in that era, and to be aware of that. So I've always been very aware of the very real threat that one day there may be a nuclear war. So I think it's a serious issue that we've got to talk about in the world.
And I guess it might even not be a nuclear war. I mean, with this climate change happening and some other things going on, there's, I guess, unfortunately, a couple of threats there that could make a big difference.
There's a lot of threats that could really end our civilization. Let's hope we can figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, that was become a bit close with COVID a few years ago. We got on top of that pretty quickly, but still, there was a couple of months there where it was a bit scary.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, and I also noticed that in your books, you that sort of post-apocalyptic, but also that fantasy and magic kind of element as well. You seem to be very kind of interested in magic.
Oh, very interested in magic. I often wonder whether people can have ESP abilities. Is any of that stuff real? Can people be psychics? Can you see a vision of the future, or is that all just make-believe? And I've looked into some of there have been like institutes and universities that have tried to do experiments into ESP, and I've looked into some of that stuff, and it's pretty questionable, but it's also an interesting area to delve into if you want to go down that rabbit hole. But I'm a very mystical guy. Like I do have an open mind. I'm agnostic about spirituality and God. There could be or might not be, and I don't claim to have the answer to that.
Asking all the big questions there, looking at all the big overall, the meta kind of questions and things. Very interesting. I do know Kings of the New Age. I'm just looking here on your Amazon store. We'll talk about that in a sec. It says book 1. Is there more books coming out in that series?
There will be at least 2 more, but I went and wrote a totally unrelated novel after I finished Kings of the New Age, which I'm seeking a publisher for. And then very soon I'm going to start working on the sequel to Kings of the New Age, and there will be at least 2 more in the series.
What's the new book called? Or do you have a name for it?
The unrelated novel I wrote after I finished Kings of the New Age is called 22nd Century Man. Okay. And it's based 100 years in the future in Newcastle in Australia.
I'm old enough to remember in the 1980s that, there was this show called Beyond 2000 that in 20 years we were going to have flying cars and robot butlers and all those sorts of things.
That's right. So funny, isn't it? Yeah. None of that ever happened.
Right. I'm still waiting for
Totally different things happened.
Yeah. What kind of things do you think will happen in 100 years?
Well, I think people are going to have chips in their brains which allow them to communicate telepathically, and that's already being developed. Yeah. So there are companies developing brain-computer interfaces already. And I think, in my story, there's an absolutely super enormous space station in orbit, which serves as a dock, you would say, for spaceships ferrying cargo throughout the solar system. So maybe we could have something like that. Okay. We'll see how we go. I wonder if I'll live long. We'll have robots as well. We're definitely going to have some robots getting around.
I know they've been promised for a few years yet, so not holding my breath. But I wondered if, we'd download our consciousness and, you sort of
that's
live
right,
that
exactly.
Way,
Can we download our consciousness, and is that the same as living immortally, or is that just a copy of your consciousness? Raises all sorts of funny questions.
Good question, yeah. If you are, say, downloaded into a computer and you don't have that same kind of stimulus and input that you have through your 5 senses, is that just a low property copy? Is that immortality, or is that a photocopy?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've thought about that a bit.
Yes. Got me thinking now. I'm getting distracted. And I do see that you've had a band for a while. Is that still going, Hadron C?
Oh, that was many years ago. That was my first creative project that I did in my early 20s. And that was a political rap band. We were very influenced by Rage Against the Machine. And we released 2 albums. Only one of them is available. The album is called Pre-Apocalyptic. And there are 2 music videos on YouTube, which you can look up on the Hadron C YouTube channel. There are the Rise Up music video, video, which is a very anti-Iraq war music video, and there's the Apocalyptic Nightmare music video.
Okay.
And we did that for a while, and that was good, and we produced some good music, and then I sort of moved on and started a new project. But I still like to promote that music and that project and get it out there, and a lot of people have told me they enjoy it.
Yeah, Hadron C, is that anything in relation to the Hadron Collider?
That's exactly right. The name Hadron Collider was taken, so I called the band Hadron C.
What, there was already a band called Hadron Collider?
There was at the time. I Googled it to make sure nobody else had the name.
And so you're not really so much in the music anymore, it's more the writing these days, is it?
I still do a fair bit of music. I was just working on a song with one of my workers at Reliability last night, which is a real sort of Black Sabbath style song. And I'm exploring singing more now. I'm starting to learn to sing better rather than rapping, and doing a lot more rock music and ballad stuff. But if you look on my YouTube channel, Nathan Bell and the Revolutionaries, there's a whole bunch of content there, including some of the studio recordings that we've produced at Reliability of songs that I've written and co-written. So
we do a podcast of this, and I'll put up some information. I'll make sure I put up the link to Nathan Bell and the Revolutionaries. I saw on that there's some music, but there's also some interviews. You're doing some vodcasts.
Yes, I've put up about 250 episodes of my podcast. I've discussed a variety of subjects ranging from politics to philosophy to science to just general life matters. It's sort of a video legacy for me. I ended that 6 months ago. I put the last video up 6 months ago, which was the video about maturity, and that's sort of a video legacy for me, which was very healing, for me to say to the world, this is what I thought of the place, and that will be there for as long as the internet exists now.
What was your favourite one?
Oh, geez, I've done so many.
Is that like asking to pick your favourite amongst children for a parent or something? It's hard to pick
I did 250 episodes. I couldn't honestly tell you which one would be my favourite. I talk about my theories on the aliens a lot, and what the aliens might be like if they exist, and those are some of my favourite ones.
We talked a little bit about it before we come on air, but this is, I guess, how I bumped into you. You're returning to the place of your birth. You're returning to Wollongong next month to do a little stuff in the mall. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I'm coming down with the owner of Reliability. He's bringing me down, and we're going to stay the night of the 19th and the 20th. And I'm going to go out the whole day in between, and I'm going to set up somewhere in the street. I'll find a nice spot near a cafe or near the shops, wherever there's a lot of foot traffic. I'll have a seat with me. I'll have my briefcase with all my books and art for sale, and I'll just set up. And I'll start inviting people over from the street to look at my wares, and we'll do some business, and I'll get some of my books out there in your area so that you guys can enjoy them. And we might get a few promotional photos or something for social media, and I'm just going to make a big sort of event of it and introduce myself to Wollongong.
Or reintroduce yourself. And I see that you do a bit of busking and stuff. You're still doing the busking around Newcastle?
Not as much anymore. Mostly I just sell my books now. I did busking for like 8 years. I did busking for many years, and it was good. I made a lot of money, and I met a lot of cool people. Newcastle seems to be getting progressively more and more dangerous a place to go out at night. So I don't go. I used to stay out busking until 3 in the morning, but I won't do that anymore because there's been some incidences around the area lately that have just scared me off a bit. But mostly I sell my books now because I'd prefer to get my books out there, and plus I actually make more money off my books anyways.
Interesting. And I see that your books are available on Amazon as well?
That's correct.
If you just Google Nathan Bell.
Nathan Bell, author, Newcastle, Amazon or something, and it will come up.
Yeah, and you've got a couple of books there. So you got the one we talked about, the Kings of the New Age, but there's Saturday Night on Beaumont Street as well?
Yes.
A little bit of you and your busking and some of the
That's
stories, yeah? And 1 Minute to Midnight.
Yes.
Oh, what's that one about?
That's another nuclear war one. So this one doesn't have any magic in it. 1 Minute to Midnight is a letter written by a man who is sitting with his family in his parents' house 3 days after a nuclear war, reflecting on life while they wait for the radiation to come down and kill them. It's a very depressing story, sorry. And so he's just writing a letter recounting the last 3 days since the war happened, and his thoughts about the life he had lived and what he had wanted to do and how that is now all over because this nuclear war has happened.
There was a movie about that, I think, made in the 80s.
Yeah, it's very similar to On the Beach. I was inspired by On the Beach.
Yes, okay. That was a Australian movie. There was a a bunch of people basically waiting for the radiation to spread from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere, and
That's correct.
It was a submarine that went off into the distance, and very not very happy, but a very thought-provoking movie, and it sounds like your book's very similar.
So this is my version of On the Beach, and it's not a very happy but a very thought-provoking story.
So we've talked a little bit about your work and your life and things, and I wonder if you wouldn't mind sharing us a little bit of information about the disabilities you're living with and the conditions and their effect. I can see you've drawn on some of the skills and strengths you've got from that to write these books and to do other sorts of things. But yeah, how does that how do you go with all that stuff?
Well, I was first diagnosed with bipolar schizoaffective disorder when I was a teenager, and then I had a very bad episode back then where I thought I was a prophet and thought I had all these psychic powers and stuff, and that went on for a few years, and I was in a really rough place for a few years. Then I sorted myself out and got on medicine, and I was all right for many years, but then I had another episode when I was about 28, and that went on for a while, and I was in another rough patch. But when I have these experiences, I can have very vivid hallucinations, and I can hear voices that I'm convinced are coming from outside of myself, and I develop all these very elaborate stories in my head, and I become convinced that they're real, and I think I'm the Messiah and these grandiose delusions, and I think I've been sent to survive the war, and I just get very lost in my imagination. That's how I frame it, just being very lost in your imagination. But you become convinced it's all real, and then you do something stupid like try and jump off a building and fly. So, yeah, you've got to be careful. But I certainly draw on all of that for my stories, and my characters have psychic powers, and there's always this question in the stories, do they really have psychic powers or are they just delusional? And I always pose that question in the stories. Also on the autism spectrum, what you would have used to have called Asperger's, but they don't say that anymore. And I actually think Asperger's people are quite tops, almost always very intelligent and communicate in a very succinct way. So I see some benefits to being Asperger's. But yes, I'm on the autism spectrum, and I've got bipolar schizoaffective disorder.
So it is interesting that, unfortunately, a lot of the conversations around disabilities tend to be that kind of deficit model. It's interesting how that becomes, I guess, important in those conversations, but in most conversations it's not. I mean, if I go to a party or if I'm meeting someone, I'm not talking about what I can't do. I don't sort of say, hi, I'm Sean, I can't fly a plane, I can't speak French, can't organise my desk. We talk about the things we're good at and we like. So it's interesting, I think.
Well, that's my mentality, and we don't talk about any benefits of these conditions. And I see there are many benefits of various conditions, and we see everything as a problem. And that's one thing because I've done some advocacy work in my 20s. I did some consumer advocacy volunteering, giving talk about my lived experience at different events and stuff. And what I want to promote as I come back into being an advocate again is I want to promote looking at positive traits and a strengths-based approach of what are the positive traits that people have and what are people good at, and how does this benefit them? Because there's such a negative view of having these conditions, and I think we could have a more positive attitude towards people who are diverse in how they think.
I agree. It always strikes me funny when someone talks about disabled parking or disabled toilets. I'm always like, well, the toilet's not disabled. It's an accessible toilet, but we do sort of look at this deficit and this kind of very negative model. Even, the National Disability Insurance Scheme, I think they could have jazzed it up a little bit and called it the National Disability Investment Scheme, and people would have been more excited about it. I think languaging can be very important in those things, I think.
Yes.
You mentioned before, I'm just interested in going a little bit deeper there, when you are unwell, you do something like jump off a fence or something to see if you can fly. What happens when you land on the ground, and obviously hopefully you're not hurt? Do you struggle to, while you're still in that sort of state, justify that, or does it snap you out of the state? What happens?
When you realise you don't have superpowers.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a funny one. Sometimes you find some weird way to reason that, that wasn't meant to happen that way, or it's all destiny and I was meant to not be able to fly that time and next time I will be able to, you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
You find some irrational reasoning to explain it away. Okay. Or maybe that's the incident that causes you to go and get help.
I guess if you do break a leg and you're in hospital, then I guess the help comes to you that way. But,
that's right.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay, well, I guess that's all I had to ask. Is there anything else? I do have one quick question to ask in a second, but is there anything else you think we should know about Nathan and your trip down to Wollongong?
No, just that I'm excited to come down. I've been to Wollongong a few times and I like the place, so I'm really excited to come down, and hopefully I'll make a few sales. So come and see me in between the 19th and the 20th and buy a book off me, and hopefully we'll get a few books circulating in Wollongong.
Sounds like fun. My final question is, if you had a magic wand, you could make this world into, something that you'd like it to be, what would you wave that magic wand? What changes would you make?
Oh, look, if I can wave the magic wand for one thing, I'd bring in universal basic income for everyone, because that would solve so many of the problems of the world. Tax the rich corporations and bring in the universal income and make it a decent sized universal income so that people have their basic needs met. People can still run private businesses and there can still be work and people can still be earning additional money, and that's how I see it should be.
What's the country that has universal? There's one that's tried it, isn't it?
There's one in Europe that tried it. I was reading a couple of years ago, one of the European nations had tried universal income. I haven't followed that, so I can't answer that, sorry.
I did follow a little bit. I'm not sure where it's at now, but a couple of years ago, crime had gone down a lot, and a lot of people that were unwell had sort of accessed health services and got into education and got into employment. It seems like very positive.
I do remember this being discussed in the news a couple of years ago, but it's not fresh on my mind, sorry.
The one thing that stuck in my mind is the expenditure on the universal income was far outweighed by the return on investment from people getting work or getting health and saving money.
That's right, and that's
health.
what it does, and I wish people would realise that. If only people could come to that realisation.
Yeah, so we could have a National Disability Investment Scheme, but maybe we could have a society investment scheme or something with a universal income.
Yeah, that's right. It'd be great.
Well, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. Everyone, look out on the 20th of August down the mall. Nathan will be down there selling his books. I'm going to make sure I come and say g'day as well. You sound very, very interesting. A little bit jealous. There's nothing I'm aware of like that in Wollongong. There's a couple of little places set up, but nothing to the extent that Reliability is set up. Sounds like you guys have got some stuff to teach us, and I think I'd like to come along and ask some questions and see if I can absorb some of the things you're doing. It sounds very interesting.
Look forward to seeing you.
Thanks for your time, mate. And
thank you.
We'll see you next month.